Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. We're all visaed up for the next 4 years. Oh yes, we are. And our flights are booked for September the 8th, so pretty soon we're back in Nanning City. Oh, I can hardly wait. But that's I do this all the time. But that's not what this video is about. So, reading the news the other day. I can read, yeah. So, Taiwan. Okay, let's start this one from the beginning. Taiwan wants to give asylum to the Hong Kong protesters. Okay, now let's back up a little bit. Didn't this start when a Hong Kong guy and his girlfriend went to Taiwan and he strangled her, put her in a suitcase and dropped her by the subway? Then ran back to Hong Kong with her ATM card, of course, took all of her money out of her bank account, and because they couldn't extradite him back to Taiwan, really, they charged him with bank fraud for stealing her money, and couldn't extradite him from Hong Kong back to Taiwan. Sorry. Well, so Hong Kong tried to pass a law stating that we can do an extradition on a one-per-one basis type thing for situations like this, and Hong Kong goes crazy. Yes, it does. Oh, it's pro-democracy, but no, it started with the extradition bill. Okay, so fast forward couple years now, and the rioters in Hong Kong rioting because of this extradition bill, and rioting in Hong Kong is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. 10 years in prison, guys. So all of these rioters now are seeking asylum in Taiwan, and Taiwan's opening the doors to them. And actually, they're thinking about passing a refugee bill just for dealing with the Hong Kong refugees, rioters that probably would have to spend 10 years in jail because they're getting caught left, right, and center in Hong Kong, violent protests. We've all seen it on the news over the last, 3 months? So, yeah. So this is so is there something wrong with this? Like, is there something that I'm missing? Hong Kong guy goes to Taiwan, kills his girlfriend, runs back to Hong Kong, can't extradite him to Taiwan. Then they have riots over trying to get an extradition thing for getting this murderer back to Taiwan. And then the rioters seek asylum in Taiwan. Oh yeah, you can't make this stuff up. This is beyond real. Okay, and why all of this I hate China, anti-Chinese stuff? It's worldwide. You look at the UK, and they just had a guy arrested. Some domestic or local law was broken by a UK consulate member out of Hong Kong in Shenzhen. Okay, so 15-day administrative detention. Okay, boy, my lips aren't working very good today. So yeah, so that's okay. So the pro-democracy protesters are rallying around this guy and saying, we're going to have a rally for this guy. Well, really? Canada, Trudeau, oh, we're not going to back down. Well, Trudeau's got no balls, so what's he going to do? Chrystia Freeland, oh, this is atrocious, that the violence in Hong Kong, and she's talking about the Chinese or the Hong Kong police. She's not talking about the violence of the protesters. Why would they? The US, how does that go? If there's violence, if the Chinese government comes in and deals with the anti-protesters, it may impact the trade deal that we're. So the U.S. is trying to sway China's internal runnings with economic power, I guess is what you're going to call it, using the trade deal to sway the Chinese government. It's not going to work, guys. You see in places, especially with the United States, they come into a country, Iraq, Libya, Lebanon, Syria. They impose their will on these countries, warmonger, turn these places into economic war zones, and then then there's refugees coming from those places to the United States, and after they've wrecked these countries, what does Trump call them? Shithole nations. You know, like, oh, you can't win for trying with these guys. The United States has assigned an American Weger to direct policy on China. Okay, well, you know, everything that they can do to undermine what China wants or what they stand for. See, the Chinese have been dealing with the Uyghur population in Xinjiang province for a long time, and you know, it's one of those internal things that they have trouble with. But because the States wants to poke them as much as they possibly can, try to make it as difficult for the Chinese central government in Beijing as much as they can. They throw these little things at them. You know, China will look at it and say, oh, whatever, we'll just deal with it in a different way. But little things like that just, you think, why? You know, you'd think that China should have turned around and had an ex-ISIS fighter direct policy for China on the United States. Yeah, and what would Trump say? Oh, you can't do that. Well, yeah, well, they probably could and they should, but they didn't, and they won't, because they're above that. You know, even to the point where U.S. consulate member has a meeting with the protesters, you know, trying to undermine the Chinese government, trying to undermine the Hong Kong government, you know, calling the Chinese government thuggish, you know, and you've got to give it to the Chinese government, because they have not intervened hardly at all. Well, I suppose they've intervened by giving statements and such, but as far as physical boots on the ground, no, they haven't done any of that. Why? I'm not sure, because, you know, if it was different, if it was turned around and say the Democrats, socialists started rioting and saying, well, we want everything free, and say they're doing it in New York State, and it was going on for 11 or 12 weeks, and they were shutting down the subways, shutting down the streets, shutting down the shops, shutting down the airport, you know, stuff like that. How long do you think it would be before the U.S. military would be called in to deal with it? Yeah, not 12 weeks, I'll guarantee you that. But when the Chinese sit back and watch and try to, I guess, direct as much as possible, and the Hong Kong police are having such a problem with it, you'd think that they would have taken action. But no, they're being very patient, and you know, it's coming up on the third week, and I think my prediction is going to be wrong, that the police, the paramilitary police they have in Shenzhen at the sports center, are gonna walk in there. I think it's actually fizzling out, which is sort of nice. China threw them an olive branch here this week, stating that they will talk to them. They're not making any concessions as of yet, but at least they're talking. I think that's going to diffuse it, which is probably a good thing, both for Hong Kong and for China. But getting back to this extradition, and getting back to this asylum, and getting back to this idea that Taiwan is going to put forward a bill in their parliament specifically for Hong Kong rioters that are rioting against an extradition bill to extradite a Hong Kong citizen from Hong Kong to Taiwan for killing his girlfriend in Taiwan. this is just utterly ridiculous, you know. That's my opinion. One of the reasons I think Taiwan is giving or wanting to give asylum to the Hong Kong protesters is they want to befriend the Hong Kong government. There's only 17 political entities in the world that recognize Taiwan as a country, and they're working on losing the Solomon Islands right now to China, because China will give them cash investment and whatever, where Taiwan, well, no, they won't. So the Solomon Islands, so that would leave 16 political entities. So if they can befriend Hong Kong, I would imagine that would be a feather in their hat, and this is probably one of the reasons that they're trying to undermine the central government in Beijing by giving asylum to the pro-democracy protesters, or the rioters, or whatever the hell you want to call them. It's just another way for Taiwan to take a swipe at China. You know, it's no different than the United States selling what, $8 billion worth of F-16 fighter planes to Taiwan. $8 billion worth. Well, now China said, well, yeah, go ahead, and we'll boycott those companies, just like you would do the same to companies selling that kind of shit to one of your people that you're in conflict with. Yeah. So you see, this all goes on and on and on, and where it ends, who knows? And you wonder why China wants to bring Taiwan back under its wing. It's because of shit like this. Anyway, that's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button, and thanks for watching. Bye now. Oh, by the way, that Chicken Man video, oh yeah, all my Chinese subscribers love the Chicken Man video, and it's getting lots of hits and lots of comments, and you know, it is funny to see the Chicken Man running a country. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye now.